I'm not here. I'm reading a book. Alright, so it's the first official day at Beacon Academy, and our girls still have to unpack and decorate their room. And we actually get to see what their school uniforms look like. Plaid skirts. Awesome. And I find it very, very funny that Monty Ullman, the creators of RWBY, went with the traditional anime miniskirt. Rosario Vampire. Just think about that. Only, it's probably not going to go that far with RWBY. If you know what I'm talking about, then you've seen Rosario Vampire. If you haven't, just go watch it. You'll know what I'm talking about in like the first 10 minutes. I swear. Alright, so each of the girls decorate the room with their own things that they've brought from home. Weiss has brought a beautiful painting. Blake has just stacks and stacks of books. Awesome. RWBY puts up a curtain, which she ends up ripping because of her giant scythe. And the most hilarious thing that I saw was Yang putting up a boy band poster, which was the Achievement Hunter guys. I wanted to laugh so hard when I saw that. I had to restrain myself because other people were asleep in my house, and I was just like, it's funny just thinking about it because it's hilarious to see those guys incorporated into RWBY, and the whole animated picture of them is just hilarious. And then the last thing that our group does is they incorporate bunk beds. And I find it funny how the bunk beds are actually constructed. On one side it's going to be Yang and Blake, and the beds are separated by stacks of books. So obviously Blake has a lot of books, and there's nothing wrong with books. I love books. I just find it hilarious that you can see that there's an obvious stack about this high of books that's separating the two beds from each other. And then Yang is going to be the top bunk due to the fact that there is her cutesy little bear pillow on top of there. And on the other side, it's going to be Weiss and RWBY. Weiss is going to take the bottom bunk, and RWBY is going to take the bunk on top that's suspended by ropes and has a blanket hanging over it. So it's a fort, and that is awesome. And through this whole scheme of them redecorating their room and all that, doing the bunk beds and such, we learn that RWBY, Yang, and Blake, they already have an instant connection. They're already good friends, and they're good friends, like I said. But Weiss, on the other hand, is the one that's just detached from them. And maybe it's because she thinks she's better than them, or it's for some other reason, but obviously she doesn't want to get in with the whole buddy-buddy system that they have going on. Alright, next big thing I want to talk about is that Jean's team is right across the hall from Team RWBY. And that's probably going to tie in a bunch of funny late night sneaking around or just adventures that they're gonna have. It's like, oh, they're right across the hall, I'm gonna do whatever. It's probably going to lead to funny, which is always good. Being their first official day at Beacon Academy, our two teams need to begin classes. And the first class that they go to, Team RWBY goes to, is with a Professor Port. That's his name, I saw in the credits. And he's actually voiced by Ryan Haywood, who is an Achievement Hunter guy. Because the Achievement Hunter poster, and then he's a voice, I just think it's funny. Now, it isn't officially explained what Professor Port's class is actually, but I'm going to say it has something to do with the monsters of the land. So maybe he's the professor of monster biology, monsterology, grim monster demon studies, something like that. And one of the funniest things about Professor Port is when he talks, he doesn't actually move his mouth. It's just the bouncing mustache thing. And if you're as big as a Rooster Teeth fan as I am, you would know that in the latest season, or in the 10th season of Red vs. Blue, they actually had the freelancer Wyoming show his face, and he had a huge handlebar mustache. And one of the things that they thought about doing for him is that if he was ever going to talk without his helmet, that it was just going to be the whole bouncing mustache thing. But they were never able to get around to it. So I just think it's funny that they incorporated it into here, and once again, I was almost rolling on the ground laughing because of the connection. Just, you know, fanboyism from me. I also find it great how they actually have a weapon already for Professor Port. And basically, whenever they introduce a new character into RWBY, they have a weapon. Because weapons are a big part of the RWBY universe, because they're all hunters and huntresses. His weapon is a blunderbuss, which is also a battle axe. So obviously, he's old, and he's from a time before the current times, you know. Come on, he has a blunderbuss. That's basically something that you stuff a shoe into, and it's going to fire, because it just did that. And the gray hair might also be a clue. Alrighty, also in the classroom, on the opposite wall of the students, so the students are looking at them, are actual designs of monsters. That is actually probably real concept art drawn by the animators. I think it's pretty cool. And basically, all of the monsters back there we can recognize. There's the Beowulf and the Deathstalker and the Ursa, and there's a few other ones that we recognize, but I don't know their name, and I couldn't read their name. I'm sorry, I can't read cursive. I can hardly write cursive. But basically, there's also the giant snake and Big Bird, and then there's another one that looks like a giant boar or warthog or something like that. We haven't actually seen that one yet in the series, which probably means it's going to be, later on in the series, it's probably going to be a big, huge boss or something like that. And then during the actual discussion and lecture in the class, Professor Port says that there are 4 kingdoms in the world, one being Vale. And as we remember, there's the city of Vale from the previous episode, there's the map, and there's Beacon Academy there. So there's the Kingdom of Vale, and then there's 3 other kingdoms that are safe havens from the monsters. Now I hope that later on in the series, maybe in future seasons or what have you, we're actually going to see what those other kingdoms are like. Maybe they have different climates, different foliage, you know, different type of plant life, different cultures. I just think it would be cool to see those other lands, as well as exploring the land of Vale on. I'm big on culture and mythology and history and basically anything, so I'm gonna go goo goo gaga over this no matter what. And it's real obvious to see that RWBY herself doesn't really take class all that seriously. I mean, she's constantly like doodling and falling asleep and just finding random stuff to do. So basically it's me in college. Before the end of the episode, Professor Port explains that every huntsman or huntress must be wise, dependable, well-educated, honorable, and strategic. Of course, he doesn't say it in that order. That's just the order I remembered them. But basically 5 concepts that a huntsman or huntress has to be. And it's obvious that Weiss does not think RWBY has any of these qualities. And so she instantly thinks that, and exclaims to the rest of the class that she believes that she is the one that has all of these qualities. And so what does that get her? That gets her a private session with a monster. And boom, episode ends. So obviously in the next episode, Weiss is going to have to be fighting some monster or something. So that probably means that Weiss's pride is probably going to cause her trouble in the future. And it already has in the past. Alrighty, predictions on what's going to happen in later episodes. Obviously, Weiss is going to have to fight the creature that was shown at the end of this episode in the next episode. Obviously, that's going to be a given. Alrighty, and our teams are obviously going to have other classes with different teachers. Now, I would like to see actually Glenda Goodwitch be a teacher. She could be a teacher of maybe defense or fighting or something like that. That'd be something cool to see. And also with the whole living arrangements with Team RWBY and Team Juniper, I can see that leading to a lot of crazy misadventures. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, in-depth look at the latest episode of RWBY, and I will see you guys next time I do one of these, and that will be next week. And also, tomorrow, stay tuned for my first episode of the Let's Play of Amnesia Machine for Pigs. I will see you guys whenever. Yeah.